you just click the mouse to change the slides? I've used PowerPoint since high school. It's a bit new. I can go. Overflow. Yeah. So I travelled to Cambodia at the end of November for 4 weeks, and I travelled with 4 other girls, with 3 other girls, so there was 4 of us in total. It was the smallest group that Antipodeans has actually ever sent anywhere. So we found that really hard to start off with because we really couldn't do a lot. It was also hard for us because none of us have expertise. Me and one other girl in health science travelled, and the other 2 girls, one of them was a teacher and the other one was majoring in like movies and projects. So that made it really hard to start off with. So our placement wasn't like the physiotherapist placements, rather our placement focused on health issues in Cambodia and educational issues. So I'm just going to give you a quick summary about Cambodia just so it makes sense for why we did things. So Cambodia has a population of approximately 14 million people, and most of those people are found in rural areas due to the high demand for agriculture for their income. Cambodia is approximately the size of Victoria, just to put that in a bit of a perspective for you. And it's divided into 23 provinces, and Phnom Penh being the capital city. I was in Siem Reap, which is one of the other areas. So a lot of Cambodia's issues are related around their history. So the Khmer Rouge had a huge effect on Cambodia and is the reason towards a lot of their health and educational problems. So during the Khmer Rouge, millions of people were killed because Pol Pot's goal was to transform Cambodia to the near extinction of their professional and educational class. On the 8th of November in 1979, Pol Pot was overthrown by Vietnam forces. From then, Cambodia has been trying to reform their country by improving education and improving health. So through the near extinction, Cambodia's health and government structure has fell behind compared to other developed countries such as Australia. So why are so many people like myself going to Cambodia to volunteer and help? A lot of the volunteers are putting themselves in programs to help with the key issues related to health and education. In 2010, the poverty rate was at 25.8%, and 18% of the population were under the food poverty line. Numbers like this often do relate back to the lack of education, poor economy, and poor health. Cambodia has a low life expectancy compared to developed countries. Australia's life expectancy sits at approximately 82 years, compared to Cambodia, which is only at 61.5 years. Low life expectancy, once again, relates back to poor health practices and low access to healthcare. A lot of the time, because such high levels of their population are found in rural areas, they may have to travel 20, 30 kilometres to get to a healthcare service, which in some areas there might only be one nurse that's there 1 or 2 days of the week, because a lot of the doctors that are coming out are not wanting to travel to those rural areas because the money isn't there and they can have a lot more people coming to them and get a lot of a higher income in the more urban areas. So with that, a lot of Cambodia's major health issues lie around preventative diseases such as malaria, tuberculosis, diarrhoea and measles. A lack of clean water and sanitation play a huge role in this. Each of these are very rare in developed countries, as we would know. This is because our healthcare services are a lot better and we use a lot of preventative practices such as vaccinations. So moving on to education. So for Cambodia, education is compulsory from the age of 6, and they actually offer this free of charge, surprisingly. Because of this, I really thought that attendance rates would be really high, both in where my placement was and throughout Cambodia. I later found that this is not the case, and it's often due to a lot of families find it really hard to afford transport, so the children cannot go to school, as well as because income is so low and poverty is so high, some of the children are actually having to go out with their parents to work in rice fields to earn money, so they're missing out on that education. So this is a reason why the adult literacy rate sit at 72% in 2010. Secondary school attendance is also extremely low. Only 30% of males and females attend secondary school. This again can relate back to their family values and the cultural belief that children actually need to help bring in income so the families can eat. So on to my trip. As I said, I was located in Siem Reap. My placement took place in a small rural village outside Siem Reap, approximately 40 minutes. The village was known as MHDC, the Military Handicap Disability Centre. This is a village where many people are put together due to their disability and their inability to serve. Each family is given a small house, which is, to compare to Australia, like a studio apartment. All they have is just one room for everyone to live in. They're also given a small piece of land to grow crops on. The military implemented this because they thought that it would help reduce levels of malnutrition because they could actually grow their own food as well as sell some of the food that they make to help make money. Within the village, there was a small medical centre which had a small physiotherapy room, a small room where a nurse would be occasionally, and a larger room with beds in it so when people got sick, they could actually go and stay there and be monitored by the nurse. I also wanted to make a note that the nurse at the time was actually pregnant, and I spoke to her and asked what will happen when you actually give birth to your child, and she said, we won't have a nurse. So once she has her child, there is going to be no nurse within that area, and their closest medical centre is about half an hour away. Sadly, I didn't spend any time at the medical centre because my placement was placed around health promotional classes and English classes because none of us were qualified to help in physiotherapy or OT, anything like that. So during my placement, I held health promotional classes every morning where I would talk to the adults. I held these classes for the children of a Thursday just to help that growing population as they come through so those preventative problems aren't such an issue as they get older. The lessons included topics such as washing your hands, brushing your teeth, how to filter water. I decided that it would be silly just to focus on preventative things as there are a lot of other health issues within Cambodia, such as motorbike safety, wound care. A lot of them would just cover the wound. They wouldn't rinse it, nothing. And then I later found out that some of them would put ash in the wound because they found that helped kill off anything. So I wanted to help fix those issues through my health promotional lessons. I found it really difficult because of the language barrier. I was fortunate that I had a full-time translator with me, but then again, they didn't have a large knowledge about health, so they didn't understand a lot of the things I was saying. So because of that problem, I had to find another way that I could get through to the adults. I found that drawing pictures, as bad as my pictures were, really helped because they recognised those objects, and it made it a lot easier for the translator to actually explain to the person what that thing was and how it can help. This also really helped because a lot of the adults started joining in my classes and telling me resources that they had that I didn't even know existed or that they would be able to have, which meant that I could alter my health promotional classes to better suit them. The reason behind us doing the health promotional classes and why they're so important was because a lot of the people in the village had no knowledge of health, had no knowledge of these simple preventative measures that they can take to help prevent them from being sick. A lot of them thanked us at the end and said that this was really helpful because they can actually go out and earn an income and not be as sick. I also did house evaluations during my trip, which initially just included asking the people what resources they had. We decided to take this to the next step because a lot of the people were not able to come to our health promotional classes because it was the harvest season. So because of this, when we went around, we'd show them little ways of how to brush their teeth properly, how to wash their hands. So we felt that this really worked well. At the end of our trip, all the money that we had fundraised, we put towards buying resources for them, which you can see in the pictures, so like blankets, soap, toothbrush, toothpaste. Another thing I found during my health evaluations were that there is only one communal water pump in this whole village, which for some people is 4 kilometres away, and the only way to get there is through walking for some of them. Imagine if you're an amputee and have one leg, no crutches, you crawl, you can't get to that water pump. So some of those people were not even using clean water, it was just whatever water they could find, or during the rain that they had in a bucket is the water they were using. So the final part of my placement occurred every afternoon with a 2-hour English class. I found the English classes really hard because the way they pronounce their sounds was very different to we do in the English language. My aim for the English lessons was not only to help change their 4-ward yellow room. I wanted to make it bright and vibrant. As you can see in the pictures, we did art and craft. We wanted to showcase to them the different things that they can do. and I also spent a lot of time in the weekends. Luckily, I got to travel everywhere around Cambodia. So my first weekend, I did the Angkor Wat Children's Hospital, which is a hospital built by non-government organisations and people donating things so children can receive healthcare free of charge. I also did the Angkor Wat temples. During this, I did a 17-kilometre charity bike ride. I also went to Phnom Penh, where I found a restaurant that they actually use to help get kids off the street. There I got to try tarantula, which you can see in the picture. It's actually really yum. I also went to Battambang and saw a charity circus, which is to help children raise